inspirational speaker, and this is a #1 bestseller, The World Peace Diet, that's been published in 16 different languages. Since 1985, Dr. Tuttle has delivered an unparalleled over 4,000 live audience presentations encouraging compassion and vegan living in over 50 countries worldwide and in all 50 U.S. states. Thank you for joining us today, Tuttle. Here we go.
Great. All right. Thank you. It's great to be with everybody here at the Veg Fest in Fort Myers on this beautiful Sunday. And I'm joining you from South Florida. We're looking forward to the vegan revolution continuing on here and getting stronger every day. So is this working well, Mike? Is everything good? Yeah? Okay, great. All right. Well, I'll go ahead and talk here for a few minutes, and I'll be happy to open up for questions maybe toward the end. I'm ending a little before noon. And so, yeah, I want to just thank all of you for being here at the Veg Fest in Fort Myers and doing the work that you're doing to help bring peace and healing and freedom and kindness and compassion and caring and radiant health into our world, because that's really what we're talking about here, is coming back home to our own hearts and to our inherent wisdom and looking at beings as beings rather than as commodities. So right now, and for the last 7 weeks actually, I have been here in West Palm Beach, even though my wife Madeline and I live in California. We're here in Florida, and we'll be visiting here for a few more weeks. And so we're at Hippocrates Health Institute, which is a leading vegan healing retreat center in West Palm Beach, giving lectures here and concerts. And it's very inspiring to be here. And I do want to just encourage all of you to please make sure you see Caroline over at the Hippocrates booth there, right there, right nearby where we are at the Fort Myers Veg Fest. The Hippocrates Health Institute has a booth where they have information. We're here right now over in West Palm Beach, giving a concert here a little bit later today, and a lecture in a couple more days. But this whole idea with Hippocrates Health Institute, and not only that, but with the work we've been doing for the last 43 years, I've been spreading the vegan message, is really to share the wonderful good news that all of us have been given the gift of a physical body that does not require any animals to suffer, to get all the nutrients that we need to celebrate our lives on this beautiful, abundant earth that we live on. And the issues that we're facing of environmental devastation, of hunger and poverty and conflict and war and disease and pandemics, all of these problems have their roots in a common, single orientation toward nature and animals, which is one of domination and exploitation and oppression and abuse of them. And it's unnecessary. That's the great good news. We don't need to imprison billions of animals like we're doing right now: cows, pigs, chickens, turkeys, ducks, geese, and fishes. There's aquaculture operations are gigantic. 2/3 of the fish we eat are imprisoned in these horrible places. And so it's completely unnecessary. That's the good news. We can all thrive and celebrate our lives here without causing suffering to animals. And I've been doing that for 43 years, since 1980. I haven't eaten any meat, dairy, or eggs. And I'm not the only one. There are literally millions of people like me who are long-term vegans, who are healthy and happy, and I would say, like in my own case, taking proactive responsibility for my health has been a wonderful gift to myself, and I think to the people around me. I'm married to a wonderful partner, my wife Madeline. We've been married for 30 years. She's also a very long-term vegan, and both of us have not been to doctors at all for over 45 years. or to a drugstore or to anything. I mean, no pill. I haven't taken a pill or a spray or a whatever pharmaceutical, medical operations and things that protocols and things that are available. I've stayed away from all that. And I think that's been not really the reason I've been 100% plant-based, but it's been one of the wonderful side effects. The reason I've been 100% vegan and plant-based over the last 43 years is because I didn't want to take out my wallet and support the abuse of cows and pigs and chickens and turkeys and other animals, which is completely unnecessary. And it's not just those animals. I don't want to pay for the abuse of the workers who have to do the terrible work of stabbing animals all day or impregnating them against their will, and what the industry refers to as rape racks. So it's just a wonderful thing to be free from causing this kind of suffering to other living beings, and to learn how to create meals that are healthy and nutritious and delicious. It's not difficult to do once we understand the basic principles. And so from our point of view, the main principles are to move toward a diet that's completely plant-based. So that means eating vegetables, fruits, grains, nuts, seeds, legumes, mushrooms, potatoes, sweet potatoes, tubers. There's so much. There's literally thousands and thousands of foods that we have to choose from. And the other thing that we really have to understand is that none of the nutrients that are in meat or dairy products or eggs come from animals directly. They all come from plants. All of the proteins that are in meat, dairy products, and eggs come from plants. The amino acids, the 20 amino acids that make up the millions of proteins are all manufactured by plants through photosynthesis. So photosynthesis is an amazing thing. Photosynthesis is the capacity that plants have to convert the carbon in the air, carbon dioxide, and to take that in and create carbohydrates and proteins and essential fatty acids. Plants do that. They bring up all the minerals from the earth, and they make all the vitamins. So all the nutrients that we require to be healthy come from plants. And if we eat an animal, if we harm an animal and kill them so we can eat their flesh, or if we steal from them and steal their eggs and their dairy products, we're not only causing a lot of suffering that's unnecessary, but we're also bringing into our body a huge amount of toxins that concentrate in these foods. The animals bring in heavy metals and PCBs and dioxins. There's also all the pesticide, herbicide, and fungicide residues that pervade the flesh and secretions of animals. So if we eat the plants directly, we get all the proteins that we need to be healthy, all the essential fatty acids, all the, and that's basically the lipids, the fats, and also the vitamins and minerals, and also fiber and carbohydrates. There's no fiber in animal-based foods. So people who are eating animal-based foods really have problems with having their colon be harmed, because fiber is one of the most important nutrients we can eat. And if we don't get enough fiber, then we're going to have all kinds of problems with our intestinal tract, which really leads to problems of health. It leads to cancer, of course, colon cancer, breast and prostate cancer, and liver and kidney disease, heart disease from the clogging of the arteries, obesity, all of these autoimmune diseases and so forth that comes from animal proteins, and the lack of carbohydrates, the lack of fiber. Carbohydrates are really the natural energy that our bodies are designed to burn for energy, and they burn totally cleanly. So carbohydrates, which are the main thing in the starches really in whole grains, legumes, and fruits, and also a lot in grains. So when we eat those, we get this wonderful fuel that our brain runs on. Our brain is only 4% of our body weight, but it uses about 25% of the energy, and it runs only on glucose. Glucose is a sugar that comes from digesting carbohydrates. So there's no carbohydrates in animal food, so it's difficult for our body to get the glucose that's needed. If we're only eating animal foods, we can do it. Our body will do the best it can with whatever fuel we put in. It has a tremendous intelligence, but it's not what we're designed for. And so once we understand that, we can just transition away from paying people to stab animals, causing hunger and starvation, because most of the food that we're growing, corn and soy and alfalfa and wheat and oats and so forth, are being fed to imprisoned animals while people are going hungry. And starvation and hunger and food injustice is well recognized to be one of the primary causes of war and conflict in the world. So when we move away from eating animal foods, we're freeing up not only land and water and petroleum, because it takes far less resources to eat on a plant-based diet. We're also freeing up food to feed children. The great Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh said very plainly that if we eat animals, then we're eating the flesh of children, of starving children. We're basically taking away the nutrition that they could use to be healthy. So none of us wants to do that. We want to be conscious. The whole idea really here is to make an effort to become more mindful, more aware, more conscious of what we're doing. And when we do that, we not only become healthier physically, but we make a healthier environment and a healthy society, a more healthy society with less war, less PTSD that these workers all have, many of them, and the ones that are working on the line, stabbing animals and shocking them and electroshocking them, cutting them up, they have what's referred to as perpetrator-induced traumatic stress disorder. They very often go back into their communities and commit harm, basically, on themselves, commit suicide or drug addiction, alcoholism, or against people in their families, wife, spousal abuse, child abuse. So we don't want to contribute to that either, and then eat it. I mean, this is what our society's doing. It's like we're all been put under a spell, and we're following a superstition, this belief that we need meat to be healthy, that we need meat and dairy products to get calcium and protein and so forth. And they're all made by plants. We don't need them to do that at all. And so we can liberate hungry people, the workers, from the misery and violence that they're experiencing and inflicting, animals, wildlife, indigenous people who are being forced off their land into slums and cities. And our body, all the cells in our body can be liberated from all these toxins. Our liver, we can liberate our liver, liberate our kidneys, liberate our colon, liberate all the cells and systems of our body. Our immune system can run better. That's been the greatest thing. As a vegan for the last 40 years, I haven't gotten sick to speak of. I mean, every once in a while I'll have a little, maybe once every 5 years, a little runny nose or something that lasts a day or half a day, but it's just a little cleansing. That's great. But to actually live in harmony with nature, with animals, with other human beings, with ourselves, that's very precious. So in the World Peace Diet, in my book, I talk a lot about the consequences of animal agriculture to the inner landscape of our own awareness and consciousness. That's something that we don't talk about too much, and I think we should more. I also talk about the consequences to our spiritual life, our spiritual awareness, because we are spiritual beings. I mean, that's an important thing to be aware of, in the sense that what we are is not merely a body, an object, like a physical thing that was born and will die. If we were born, we will die. That's it, beginning and end. There's nothing else. If we believe that, we're believing a total lie, a lie that is being perpetrated by our society, by the scientific establishment, and by the food industry, the government, the educational system, it's very important to understand that we are manifestations of infinite and eternal consciousness. We have awareness, and that when we're eating animal foods, we're actually only following orders. For example, when we leave here, when we leave this wonderful veg fest and we go out back into the world again and we see people going into the store and buying the flesh of horribly abused animals or dairy products or eggs, we have to realize that the only reason that anyone makes those purchases and eats those foods is because they're just following orders. They're doing what they've been told to do from the time they're little infants. They're just basically robotically repeating behavior, and it goes against our natural wisdom, our natural logic and rationality and empathy and compassion, kindness and wisdom and intuition. It goes against all those capacities that we have. It's illogical to waste all this grain and land and petroleum to make foods that are toxic and deadly and to create wars and conflicts and disease. It's totally anti-logical for us to do that. So what we have to understand is that even though we have these capacities for empathy and kindness, and we wouldn't want to cause a cow to be harmed, just like we wouldn't want to have, if we have a companion animal like a dog or a cat, we wouldn't want someone to come by and say, well, I'll give you $4.50 a pound for your dog or your cat, and then lock them into a closet and make them live in their own feces and hang them upside down by one leg and cut their throat and then eat them. We would never allow that to happen. But we go ahead and do that very often to same thing to cows and pigs and chickens. So the only reason anyone does that, the only reason we take out our wallets and pay for that kind of violence is because we are following orders and we're basically, I guess the word really is indoctrinated by our society. Every society does that. It's not a bad thing. Every society basically transmits its norms and values and food and religion and everything from generation to generation. And our culture is no different. But now we can see that if we want to make an effort to help our society move to a more peaceful, healthy future, we can't just keep doing what we've been taught to do. We have to actually be the positive change, as Gandhi said, that we would like to see in the world. And so instead of just being a tribal member, member of the tribe, and just trying to fit in and be like everybody else, and continuing violence and abuse and slavery to other living beings, we can see that by liberating animals, we liberate ourselves. So to question the inner indoctrination that we've all gone through, I think is a very important thing. If you're listening to me right now, you have your own story of how you started questioning eating animal foods. For me, I was born and raised in Concord, Massachusetts in the 1950s. The meals that we ate as a kid, we ate sort of liver, kidneys, burgers, hot dogs, a lot of milk, eggs, and like everybody, right? I mean, back in the 1950s, I remember about eating, is this what everybody eats? And she said, everybody So yeah, so she, my mother said, that's not totally true. There are vegetarians. And I had never heard that word in my life. So I said, what's a vegetarian? And my mother said, oh, a vegetarian, but that's well, actually, don't worry about it. You're never going to meet one. I don't know where they get their protein. So I really, I had this image of vegetarians being these really pathetic people who were not getting enough protein, probably dragging themselves through the dirt, begging for protein. And I was so glad I wasn't a vegetarian. And my mother was right. I never heard the word again. I remember going away to college and in the 1970s and learning that there were some vegetarians on campus. This was up in Maine, and but I never met one. But then really during that time, I started questioning things, and I decided with my brother, my younger brother Ed, that we would walk across the United States. We would walk all the way from Massachusetts to California on a spiritual pilgrimage. Go to California to try to attain cosmic consciousness and meditate. And so I remember we left home and we walked for quite a few weeks. We got as far as Buffalo, New York, and then we headed south. And we actually walked south all the way down through upstate New York and Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Kentucky, into Tennessee. And when we got into Tennessee, we stopped for a while at a community called The Farm. Hi there, Vegan Evan, I see you. And it was the largest hippie commune in the world with about 900 people, and they were all vegetarians. So I met my first community of vegetarians, and they were actually vegans. No one could use the word vegan back then because no one knew it. But the great thing was it was all it was a vegan community with no meat, no dairy, no eggs, and they had about 200 children there that were born and raised at the farm. They were all vegan from birth, and they were thriving. They were doing great. So I looked at these people. I talked to them. I worked together with them. I asked them, why are you guys vegan? And they said there's two main reasons. One is most of the food we're growing is fed to animals while people are starving. So we are eating lower on the food chain so there'll be enough for everyone to eat so we can have peace. So it's basically the world peace diet. That's the name of my book. If we want to have world peace, then we eat lower on the food chain. There'll be enough for everyone to eat. The rivers can heal, the oceans can heal, the rainforests can heal, our bodies can heal, our societies can heal, our minds can heal, our spirits can heal. It's really about healing. And the other reason he said that they wouldn't eat any animal foods is because of the abuse that animals go through. And he spent a few minutes telling me about that and the mutilation and killing and horror, really, that's the pain and suffering that these animals are forced to endure to become hot dogs and hamburgers and cheese and eggs and so forth. So that was it. I have never eaten meat in my life since 1975. That's almost 40 years ago now. And 50, it's almost 50 years ago. My gosh, how the years go by. And a few years later, I became a vegan. And a few years after that, in 1984, I shaved my head and became a Zen Buddhist monk. So I was living in a Zen monastery in South Korea. And for the second time in my life, I was in a community that was vegan. And this time they had been practicing veganism for about 750 years, since the 1200s. And so I realized that veganism is an ancient wisdom tradition that goes back actually hundreds of years, maybe thousands of years. People have understood that if we're really serious about spiritual awakening, cultural harmony, health, and so forth, then we don't eat animal foods. We allow animals to live their lives. We liberate animals. What right do we have to be free and healthy when every day we're causing other beings to be enslaved and sick, right? I mean, one of the most important teachings in the world religions, and Christianity especially, is the teaching of the golden rule, that not to do to others what we wouldn't want to have done to ourselves. And yet we do that every day if we're eating animal foods, and not only causing them suffering, but as it also says in the Bible and in all the world religions, whatever we sow, that shall we also reap. So if we're going to insist on sowing seeds of disease and slavery and tracking and enforced medicating and all these things in millions of animals every day, then how are we going to think that the same thing's not going to happen to us? We're going to have to experience these things ourselves. And we see that happening. We see people buying foods where the animals are forced into obesity and we get obese, or we force the animals into osteoporosis and we get osteoporosis, or we force the animals into having cancer and we get cancer. We force the animals into drug addiction and we get drug addiction. We break down the families of these animals. We steal their babies, kill their babies. We find our families are breaking down. We find the same thing. Whatever we sow, we're going to reap. So the whole idea is to cultivate the one heart, this beautiful heart that we all have that has compassion for other living beings, for animals and for humans. What all psychologists know is that people who harm other people typically always practice on animals first. If we're going to insist on practicing on animals, all this violence and abuse every day, it's very easy to go from that into doing the same thing to human beings. So the whole idea is to actually understand these principles and move toward a way of life that is based on kindness and compassion, and learning to make the connections between what's on our plate and the violence and abuse that was required to get it onto our plate. My PhD from Berkeley focused on educating intuition and intelligence, how to understand intelligence. And basically intelligence from the system's point of view is the capacity to make connections that are meaningful and relevant. And so when we have the primary ritual in our society, which is the meals, right? We're eating food. That's the main ritual in every society. And every single meal, we're doing our best during that meal to not make the connection. If we're eating bacon or hot dogs or whatever it is, cheese, we don't want someone to tell us about the violence and misery that the cow and the pig experienced, right? So we learn to disconnect from what we're eating, to not think about what we're eating. And when we do that every day, 2 or 3 times a day in and day out, and everyone in the entire society is doing that, then we create, unfortunately, a whole society where we have lost our intelligence, our true intelligence, the ability to make connections, not only our cognitive intelligence and our actual awareness, but also our emotional and spiritual intelligence. We learn to numb ourselves to the violence that we are inflicting on others. So the whole idea here really with this message of veganism is to regain our intelligence, to rebuild our awareness, to become more mindful and more aware. And when that happens, then we can begin to be a force for healing in the world. That's really the foundation, to not only have a healthy body, but to have a healthy mind in a healthy body, a healthy spirit at the core, where we're living our purpose. That's the most important thing. And again, if we're going to insist on stealing the purposes of other living beings, the main thing that happens is we lose our own purpose. And we see that in our society today. We see that one of the greatest problems in our society is that people don't feel that they have a purpose. So the more we can create communities, like right now, this is a temporary community. We're in Fort Myers. We have this Veg Fest. It's a community of health and freedom and sanity and justice and equality, and that honors the sacred feminine dimension of life, because animal agriculture is based on exploiting the sacred feminine dimension and stealing babies and killing them and impregnating females and so forth. So it's based on that kind of violence, which we see in our society as a result of that. So when we create communities like Veg Fests, like where we are right now, which is Hippocrates Health Institute in Southwest and Southeast Florida in West Palm Beach, or like vegan restaurants, or like online cooking classes that are vegan. There's all kinds of ways we can create communities. I myself lived in a community for both two different vegan communities and found it to be transformational and liberating. So the more we can help create these communities, the better. And I think that's one of the really greatest gifts we can give to the world, to others, is to support these kinds of communities. So again, please be sure to stop by the Hippocrates Health Institute booth where Caroline is, and she'll be happy to talk to you about Hippocrates Health Institute and all of the terrific programs they have here. It's 100% vegan, organic food. People come here with cancer and obesity and diabetes and arthritis and autoimmune diseases of various kinds. And after 3 or 4 weeks, very often they go back and they're off their medications. They're feeling better. They're doing much better. And very often they're healed. And we've been coming here for many years and seeing this as teachers. We're on the staff. We give lectures and concerts here, but for a few months in the winter. So definitely see Caroline over at the Hippocrates Health Institute booth, and also check out our website. My name is Will Tuttle, Tuttle, WillTuttle.com or WorldPeaceDiet.com. We have my wife Madeline has lots of cooking videos, food preparing videos. It's referred to, it's called the Intuitive Kitchen, Madeline's Intuitive Kitchen. And we also have our lecture schedule. We're lecturing all over Florida over the next month in February and March. And then we're heading back to California. We'll be lecturing in Georgia and South Carolina, Tennessee, and Arkansas, Oklahoma, and New Mexico, Arizona, and Nevada, and California. So across the entire country, we'll be giving some more lectures. And I have articles that I've written. We have a new book coming out. The main thing, I think, is the World Peace Diet. That book, if you really want to understand the big picture of our society and how we can help transform our world in a positive direction, please get a copy of the World Peace Diet. You can get it anywhere on Amazon or from our website. You can also get the audiobook if you'd like to just listen to it while you're driving. It's 13 and a half hours. Listen to the audiobook, where I go into much more detail and depth about the consequences of animal agriculture and the many benefits of moving toward a plant-based way of eating for ethical reasons and for health reasons. Being mindful of our health is one of the greatest gifts we can give, not only to ourselves to live our purpose, but to everyone around us. The healthier we are, the more happy we'll be, the more we'll be able to live our purpose, the more we will be able to actually inspire other people. And so we're really talking about building a movement of inspiration and healing based on a positive, loving action. Veganism is basically love. It's nothing complex or esoteric. It's basically just having love and caring for others, caring for ourselves, caring for others, questioning the narratives, right? Don't you think you all know that it's a good idea not to just do whatever our society tells us to do, whatever the doctor tells us to do, whatever the authorities tell us to do? We have our own inner wisdom, and the more that we learn to trust our inner wisdom, the more we can actually live in harmony with our purpose. And as the next speaker, who is Lisa Wong, who is a wonderful acupuncturist from Northern California, who's actually been traveling with Madeline and with me all the way from California, all the way to Florida. We did 18 lectures on the way out here over a period of over 4 weeks. And Lisa came the whole way. She's very knowledgeable about Eastern modes of healing, acupuncture and acupressure, and veganism. She's also a World Peace Diet facilitator. She understands the very important concept that she's really emphasizing, which is the concept of the inner doctor, which she'll tell you more about that, but that we all have our own inner wisdom, our own inner healing power. And it really thrives on us connecting with the wisdom of compassion for animals and knowing that the earth supplies us with whatever we need. Remember the Garden of Eden. The Garden of Eden, there was no killing of animals necessary because everything was given. All the nutrients that we need are available to us from plants. We still live in the garden. This is the garden. This would be the Garden of Eden if we didn't destroy it by the demonic practice of animal agriculture. That's really the problem. We've all been, unfortunately, born into a system that is demonic and that wounds us by very loving people. You know, my own mother, my father, my friends, neighbors, my relatives, the minister at the church, they all encouraged me to eat meat, dairy, and eggs because they had been abused and wounded by their parents and teachers and friends and neighbors. And it's been going through the generations, as I talk about in the World Peace Diet, for 10,000 years. 10,000 years ago, we started abusing animals, owning them as property. But it's completely unnecessary now. We understand better, and understanding better, we can live better. And living better, we can actually liberate not only animals, but liberate ourselves. I think that's the great good news that we should all be going out and sharing with everyone, that we don't need to imprison and abuse animals. We can thrive and celebrate and be healthy and happy. And that really is the ethical and spiritual essence of all the world religions. They all have the same teaching, the golden rule and of the law of consequentiality, that whatever we sow, we will reap. So let's work together in the future. And we look forward to our paths crossing again. I want to really thank the organizers of this event, Mike and Denise Young, for their hard work in putting this on. And I want to thank all of the vendors who have booths. Without them, there would be no Fort Myers Veg Fest. Again, I want to especially thank Caroline over at the Hippocrates booth there, and go by and see her and find out what they have to offer. A lot of great things. I want to thank Lisa Wong, who will be the next speaker, for her tremendous good energy and efforts on behalf of animals and ecosystems and human beings and health. And I want to thank my wonderful wife, Madeline, also, who's right here with me at Hippocrates. And she's a vegan artist. And I met her in Switzerland over 30 years ago. And together we are doing our best to share the vegan message from coast to coast and around the world, globally as well. We only have a few years on this earth, all of us, no matter how healthy we are. We're born, and at a certain point we leave our body. So while we're here, we can be part of the solution rather than being merely part of the problem. So thank you, everyone, for your kind attention. And it looks to me like Mike is getting ready to transfer things over. So I'll go ahead. Oh, here's Vegan Evan. All right, Vegan Evan, take it away there. Thanks so much. It's great to see you. Hi.
Wow, thank you so much for speaking. I hope I can see you in the not so far future. And I was just thinking about fruits and jackfruit. Hey!